Let's rank the top 5 teams in the NBA from 1 to 5.
All right, for me, number one has got to be the Milwaukee Bucks. Do we all agree there? I think,
Definitely.
just based off of what they bring defensively, on top of the fact that they have, Giannis Antetokounmpo, probably the best player in the world right now. I think it's hard to argue anyone over them right now.
Yeah, I agree. They're number one.
Yeah. I would say they're number one for sure. And I'm not really sure that there's a close second right now, to be completely honest. When you think about the way that the Celtics are kind of tapering off, and then I mean Philly might be the closest thing, but even then, like there's still just some inconsistency there. So yeah, I definitely would go with the Bucks.
So at 2, who you picking? Philly, Denver, or Boston?
I'm gonna go with Denver, man. I'm gonna go with Denver, and the reason why I know that Denver is kind of on this skid now, where like in the last 10 games, I think they're like what 4-6 or something like that. Like it's just not a stellar record, but at the same time, I feel like Nikola Jokic, being one of the best three or so players in the NBA, has still managed to keep their offense afloat, and I think their struggles defensively, I feel like that's it's not, I don't want to call it an effort thing, really. I just feel like it's something that when you play down to your competition, you've been the one seed for so long in the West, and nobody's really competing with you. It's kind of hard to keep that same intensity up. But now they're kind of getting back to it. So I'm gonna go with the Nuggets as my number two.
Yeah, I agree with the Nuggets. I think the Celtics will be a close number two to me there, but they've also kind of tailed off here recently, and so I'm not mad at the Nuggets in number two at all.
I mean, I could easily say Philly number 2, but I agree with Sykes. I think they just coasting. Like they don't have anything to prove out west, and don't want to go into playoffs with any type of injuries. So who we got next at 3? Boston or Philly?
I like Boston. I don't know. It sounds like we might have some disagreements here, but I like Boston at number three, and the reason why is just because I feel like there's another gear they can hit that the Sixers just right now the Sixers are kind of rolling and they're hot, but I do think the Celtics are kind of doing the Nuggets thing. They went to the finals last year, so I think once the playoffs hit, they'll kick it into another gear. We know what they can do defensively when they really want to. As far as the bigs, Robert Williams and Al Horford, and then when Tatum and Jaylen Brown are locked in, that's a tough one too to deal with. So I like the Celtics number three.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point on Tatum and Brown. I'm kind of torn. I'm not gonna lie. I'm
Well, hold on,
between
hold on.
Philly.
If you are going to be the deciding vote, let me go
All
because
right, go
I
ahead,
think it's
go ahead, go
Philly.
ahead.
I think it's Philly. I think they've been the hottest team, especially post All-Star break. I think Joel, out of the all the players on both rosters, I think he's the best player. Now, I think Tatum is 2, Brown 3, and then you go Harden, and then from there is a bunch of like the reserve players that make up like your teams. But I think Boston might have a little bit of drama on their hands. Brown been talking a little loose lately, and I think you don't want to have anything negative impacting how you play, especially towards the postseason. And I know Philly, we've been having all type of issues with players and coaches and stuff, but I feel like this is the one time where they're coming into this playoff situation like as locked in as possible. And I think with Embiid playing the way he is, he got something to prove. Like if you can't get out the second round, buddy, you might just be the second best player on a good team.
All right,
What you
decide a
got,
vote.
Sykes?
I am going to go with the Sixers, man. I'm gonna go with the Sixers. I think that it's really close for me. It is really, really close for me. But the way that Boston has played lately, I try not to read too much into it, but I can't help it because it's not that they're not trying to win game. I don't think that that's the issue. Like it's not that they're like there's a lack of effort there. I just feel like they've fallen back into these old habits that we saw last year where their offense dries up really, really quickly on certain possessions. And like you get Jason Tatum taking pull-up threes instead of driving and kicking out. And Marcus Smart isn't playing as well since he came back from his injury. And then you got the whole thing with Jaylen Brown now, where like he's balling, but there's also like it feels like a little bit of tension, like Ev pointed out. And I try not to read too much into that kind of thing, but I think it does, especially when you're an NBA Finals contender. Like those sorts of conversations, those sorts of things do sort of just eke in throughout the season, and sometimes they can come to a head. And I feel like we saw something similar with the Suns last year, where like you knew that you had this tension between DeAndre Ayton and Monty Williams, right? And then you get into the playoffs, everything's going well, and the Pelicans give you a little bit of go. Then Luka Doncic just completely owns you, and now the whole team is just combustible. Like it just blows up. And I feel like the Celtics are. I'm not saying that this is going to happen to them. I don't know if this is going to happen to them, but I feel like they are a prime contender for that same sort of season. So I'm gonna go with the Sixers, man.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. For me, the Sixers would have been right there. So, they would have been fourth. I'm not mad at putting the Sixers third. I think there's always something bubbling under the surface with a lot of teams, though. James Harden rumors to Houston. Right now, they're playing through it and they're playing well. But, that stuff is always there. I feel like Jaylen Brown's been in trade talks his whole career. So, that's probably just coming to a head now. The one thing that concerns me with the Celtics really is whether Joe Mazzulla has that thing in him that Ime Udoka had, where he could just kind of really get into those guys and Mazzulla's a little bit more laid back. And so if they actually do need that, I'm just wondering if he can give them that extra type of motivation, that different type of coaching. And that's yet to be seen. Right now they're going through it. So we'll see if he can get them through it and to the other side. But I do think there's another gear in the Celtics team just based off of what we saw last postseason.
All right, so that fifth spot, who we going with? I think I can make the case for Memphis. I think they've been the second best team, and even though they got the drama with Ja, it's like they've shown that they can play without their franchise guy. You can also say the Kings. You can also find somebody else in the East. But I think I'm going to go with Memphis. I think they're a little more battle-tested than the Kings, and I think you might get a rejuvenized Ja during the playoff stretch, especially after all the off-the-court issues and stuff. He might have something to prove, like I said, for Embiid.
Yeah, I think we might get three different answers here, but for me, it's Phoenix. Kevin Durant's not there right now, and they're still kind of coasting and they're moving up the standings. I think once he's there, they could potentially be the best team in the NBA. And so for me, I'm just kind of looking at the big picture of once Durant is in there. We saw a few games, and they look really scary. Those 3 games they had their guys together. So I'm gonna go with the Suns.
All right, now
you can make your own case, and then maybe somebody switch sides.
I'm gonna go with the Kings. And let me tell y'all why, man. This is the best offense in the NBA. Number one, that's first and foremost. That's the thing. There is not a better offensive team, a team that knows what they want to do night in and night out than the Kings. Obviously, Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets, they're nice. Jokic is a offensive dynamo in his own right. But at the same time, I feel like the consistency that we've seen out of the Kings, it just kind of goes unheralded. It's been that way all season long. I think Mike Brown has these boys balling and confident in themselves in a way that they haven't been that for 20 years at this point, 20 whole years. So it's kind of shocking. I feel like it's taking everybody some time to come along to the Kings, but man, this team is really, really good. De'Aaron Fox, I think, is a legit all NBA guy this year. I think he'll get that last guard spot probably, depending on how people view Steph Curry's season by the end of it. But I just feel like, man, this team between Sabonis and Fox, they just really, really got something nice. The Suns are going to be good. I know that they've got Kevin Durant, but listen, they haven't played with Kevin Durant all year. By the time they come into the season, they'll only have played 1 or 2 games with it at that point. And then you got other teams out east, but I can't say that a 5th seed or a 4th seed is the 5th best team in the NBA. In the NBA overall, that's just too hard for me. So I just feel like the Kings, they got something cooking right now. They got something clicking, and I'm gonna just rock with them, man. I think that's gonna be my playoff team since my Wizards ain't gonna make it.
I'm glad you said all that, but I agree with Prince because he just brought up a great point. They got Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, the best player in all these teams. And KD can get you 40, and he can win you a series by himself.
That boy was a first round out last year.
No, that's a fact. But that was those Celtics. That's what I'm saying.
Team that went to the finals, though. It was a team that went to the finals.
Listen, man, we'll see how the Suns season is. I don't know what. That's the other thing. We don't know what seed they'll be.
I think Cleveland deserves honorable mention too.
Yeah, I mean, the East is a little more top heavy, but Cleveland made a run. I mean, the 3 teams we mentioned, I feel like, are the best teams of the next best team out of the top 4 we already said.